Welcome to today's episode of Between Neens and Deens. My name is Nina, and I'm joined by my best friend, partner, and baby daddy, Dayon.
And together, we're a couple of 20-something-year-olds just trying to navigate this whole first-time parenting thing.
So we're laying it all out there and talking about all the things you wish your parents told you about love, sex, and happiness. Hey, the funniest thing just happened. We were watching Altered Carbon the other day, and literally both of our exes were in the same scene. Like, not just that they're both in Altered Carbon, just the fact that they're in the same scene talking to each other.
They were in the same scene, the same room.
They're talking to each other. It was so crazy.
That was hilarious. I was like, oh, that's my ex. And then I was like, oh, but that's your ex too. And you're like, oh, it is.
Yeah. Well, it's just funny because like that show has so many Vancouver actors.
It does.
So throughout the entire thing, we were just like, oh, like we know this person, we know this person.
And like the locations as well. It was fun to like spot out all the different locations. We're like, oh, that's like the convention center, but it looks like some futuristic, like dystopian place.
Yeah, super funny. But anyways, welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking all about cheating. After giving it some thought, we decided to do 2 episodes. This one is going to be us talking about being the person that cheats and kind of the actual act of doing it. And then next week, we're going to be talking about what happens when you get cheated on and how to heal from something like that.
And we've both been cheated on before and had to overcome that.
Yeah.
And I am the only one here that has experience with actually cheating.
Well, technically, I mean, my story is very short, so I guess I'll just start with mine because yours is a lot more extensive.
Actually, wait, you do have experience cheating. You cheated on me.
No, I didn't.
Don't you remember when we were long distance?
When we were playing Scrabble.
She cheated. The deceit, guys. We were playing Scrabble online, and this girl behind my back was putting in the tiles that she had in like a 7 tiles, like it gives you different words.
Yeah, you type in all the tiles that you have, and then it tells you all the possible words. And so Dan's like, how are you coming up with these words? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just putting it in, and then it just miraculously.
The deceit. She lied to me. That was
but
so
I eventually
early on.
Told you.
You did? But, well, no, did you?
I think so.
No,
yeah.
Because you used the 7-letter word that was like, there was no chance in hell that you knew what it meant.
Yeah, but then you asked and I admitted it. I could have said no. I could have just continued to lie to you.
Well, anyway, so Nina cheated on me.
Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about. So my story is pretty short. It was when I was in high school. I was exclusive with this guy. We were hooking up for maybe like a month or 2, hooking up as in everything essentially besides sex. And we decided that we were going to be exclusive. And after 2 weeks, I made out with somebody else. And the person that I made out with was somebody that I had a crush on for a really long time. So in that moment, I really just wasn't thinking. Like, I found myself in a situation where it was just me and this other guy, and I have like a huge crush on this guy. Like, I can't believe like this is happening. I think that kind of took over, and I wasn't thinking about the fact that I was in an exclusive relationship with this other person. Like, it's kind of hard because it's like we weren't actually dating. Like, I don't know, like we would see each other every now and then, but we never went on dates or anything like that. So even when we decided to be exclusive, the reason why I felt really stupid is because I was the one that really pushed for it. And I was like, yeah, like I really want this, because he was going to like parties and like making out with other girls, and I was like, I don't want that. I want us to be exclusive. So I pushed really hard for it, and then 2 weeks later I ended up making out with someone else, and I felt really guilty. I felt a lot of guilt, but in the end, like, we decided he was kind of flirting with my other friend, and I was like, I don't think that this is really right for either of us. So I hadn't told him at this point, but we decided to part ways, and we were still friends. Like, everything was great, but I still felt a lot of guilt. And I think that I told a lot of my friends that I had done this, and I think a big part of that was because I kind of wanted to get caught. Like, I needed to get it off my chest. I knew that if I told enough people, then eventually, like, I would have to make a decision about telling him, and that did happen. It was like, I think probably another week after we had ended that it got around enough, and then one of my friends was like, Nina, you really have to tell him. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I went to school, and I ended up telling him that I made out with somebody else while we were supposed to be exclusive, and he was like, oh, like, I mean, yeah, no hard feelings, like, it's fine. Like, he took it really well. Like, I genuinely don't think he was super upset with me. Like, I think it was just kind of a shock to him, but like, he took it really well, and he was like, yeah, like, we're fine, we're cool. And we still continued to like be friends and like friendly whenever we went out. And actually that day he asked my other friend to go to winter formal with him. So like, he was already moved on. So that's why, like, when I do talk to people about it after it happened, some people feel like, yes, you cheated on him because you were exclusive. You weren't supposed to do that, which totally fair. When you're exclusive, you're not supposed to be making out with other people. But then some people that I've talked to are like, well, you weren't really in a relationship. Like, you guys weren't, like, it wasn't serious like that, so it wasn't cheating. So everyone that I've talked to has different opinions about it. I don't think it's kind of, like, the worst situation that could have happened, because it definitely isn't. And, like, when I got cheated, like, actually cheated on, it was way worse, and it was somebody that claimed to love me and all these things. That's my experience.
Yeah, but with your experience, like, that wasn't, you guys weren't, like, necessarily very intimate with each other, so.
No, we were literally just, like, hooking up at parties, and we had been hooking up at parties for a month or two,
which
you know?
is where I feel like that's probably why it didn't hurt as much, because, like, there wasn't much invested in it.
But, like, I think, because, like, even if he had done the same to me, even if we were like, okay, like, let's be exclusive, and then I found out that he made out with someone later, like, it really wouldn't have rocked my world or anything. I would have just been like, oh, okay, well, like, we're not together anymore now, so it's cool. But, I mean, everyone handles it differently, and we definitely did get questions when I asked on my Instagram for any questions that you guys had about cheating. I definitely got some about being in a situationship or being exclusive, like, is that cheating? And I feel like that's kind of up to you to decide. The thing that did really help me, and the reason why I do kind of consider cheating, is because I felt so guilty after I did it. When I did cheat, I made out with this other guy for, like, maybe a minute, and then I was like, wait, whoa, like, I can't be doing this. I'm actually exclusive with this other guy that we're all friends with. And he was like, oh my God, like, I didn't know that, like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, it's not your fault, like, that's on me. And so I felt really guilty, really, really guilty. And that's why I was kind of, like, saying that I think I self-sabotaged myself by telling so many people. And I just never want to be, like, in that position again. Like, I hated how it felt. And even though, it was somebody where we weren't even that serious, I was like, I can't imagine how much it would hurt me and how much it would hurt the other person if we were serious. And so I really learned from that experience. Like, I got a little taste of cheating, and I was like, nope, don't want it, not for me.
Yeah, guilt is a big part of it, for sure.
Yeah.
If you start feeling guilty, I think you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Your subconscious knows that it's, like, not the right thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Like, that's kind of how we started thinking about this podcast. And I 100% don't agree with the sentiment. I don't think you do either.
Yeah, I definitely don't.
I mean, I feel like I hear people say it, and even when they do and they're so adamant about, like, people never change, like, I don't know, like, it rubs me the wrong way, because you 100% can change. And I think that if you have the right intentions, and that if you actually put in the work to heal and process and, like, acknowledge the things that you've done, then you can. And I think it's very, very limiting to put anybody in a box and say, like, you are your actions or you are your choices that you made, and you can never grow past that, because, like, then what's the point?
Yeah, because everyone can definitely grow. It just takes time and, like, understanding as to, like, why you're doing these certain things. So.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about you.
Yes.
And I know everything. So for the purpose of this podcast, I feel like the best way to share Dayan's story is for me to ask him questions and kind of direct him, because it's like a big mumbo jumbo. And when Dayan just starts talking, it's a big ramble. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of emotions. It's also not easy for you to talk about. Like, I feel like every single time we do talk about it, or when, I don't know, anything comes up about this time in your life, it definitely takes a toll on you.
So yeah, it is quite tough for me to talk about it, because there is a lot of guilt and regret and things that I wish I could change or do different, but you can't change the past. So
and even after years, it's been
many years.
Like, like a lot of
5
years.
or 6 years.
More than that, I think.
It's been quite some time.
So when I asked you guys on Instagram, one of the major ones that came up is why people do it. So what were the reasons that drove you to do it? Like, was it, like, any type of, like, trouble in your relationship? Was it just you being young? Like, I don't know.
I think it's a mix of all of that stuff. I feel like I was quite young, and I think also just being very selfish. And I think those are the things that I felt like I needed for myself. In my first very relationship with my first girlfriend, which I was faithful to, she actually ended up cheating on me. So I think a lot of my subconscious was allowing that to dictate my decisions. And also the company that I kept. So, like, my friends and music as well. Cheat, yeah. Like, yeah, so, like, all of that kind of normalized cheating for me. And I think because being cheated on, I think in my mind it was like, oh, well, like, someone that I never thought would cheat on me cheated on me.
And, like, how much time has passed between when she cheated on you and then you first cheated on somebody?
It was about a year's time, I think, until I got into, like, my next more serious relationship. And that was because I did genuinely care about this person. I did feel love, but a part of me was still had those kind of like cravings of like, oh, like if I feel like I want to sleep with somebody else, I should be able to do that. And I think that's just like a normal thing, and it never really hit me in a way that like, oh, this is hurting that other person. You know what I mean?
So did it just start with like physical cheating then? Or like was it more emotional, like you were talking to people and you were like building relationships kind of with other people and then
it was a bit of both for sure. There was a lot of the like just meet a random girl, I think she's cute, and then like we hook up, and then there's also like me getting to know like certain people, maybe even going on like small little dates and stuff. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of both, and it's just like horrible, like just like reliving all those like decisions, and I wish I can take most of them back or like be more upfront and honest about what I was doing, but it was emotional and physical for sure.
Let's also just take a moment to talk about the differences between emotional and physical cheating.
Yeah.
Physical cheating, I think we all know you're either making out with somebody. I mean, I would consider making out with somebody. Some people wouldn't. Some people just consider like sex to be cheating, which also is like, what do you consider sex? But I mean, yeah, so we're all, I feel like, pretty clear on what physical cheating is. For me, I feel like emotional cheating, honestly, I think would be worse. I think it would hurt harder for me because like physical is more of those like it just happened, it was in the moment and I was thinking about my needs and not I wasn't thinking about you. But I feel like for emotional, like that's like time, it develops. It's getting to know somebody on a level that I mean should kind of just exist between me and you know that it's wrong and you continue to do it and allow that relationship to grow, you know? And so like I think that when it comes to me and you, like I know that you're a flirty person and I know that it's something that you have done in the past. So like it scares me a little bit more if I like see that you're messaging somebody for like a little bit longer than like is normal, that you're like, like somebody slides into your DMs and it's not just like, oh yeah, like hey, like thanks. It's like a conversation and it's like like what are you trying to like, unless they're like trying to actually just be your friend or unless it's somebody that we both know, like I'm like what is this other person's motive? And like you just being like a flirty friendly person, like would you allow it to go too far? And like do you know where, like do we agree on where the boundaries are?
Don't you feel like you know me better now though?
What do you mean?
Like wouldn't you know that like it just wouldn't go that far?
I mean, we can talk about this more next week too, because this is about like trust issues and rebuilding trust, but like I mean we went through a really rough patch in July, August of last year, and a lot of that was because I was like, I don't really know if like you realize that you doing all these little things, like all these things that you consider to be little, have a big impact on me. I think that was a conversation that we needed to have, and like we definitely got stronger because of it, because we needed to know like what each other's limits were. And like I don't think you realized that for me, like you just like smiling at other like cute girls on the street, like things like that, like it might be little to you, but to me it's not. And like you didn't know that's where my line was. And even though to me I'm like that should be obvious, you shouldn't do that, like it's a conversation that needs to be had, because you can't read my mind and like everybody's line is so different. Like you were saying that one of your exes would get mad whenever you watch porn, and like to me I think that's hilarious, because I'm like that's not anywhere close to, like that's just not cheating. To be fair, like you need to have that conversation so you understand like to each person like what do you consider cheating.
Yeah, to each person the line is different. If
you started a Tinder account and if you were messaging people on there, even if you weren't meeting up with them, if you had no intention, and like I think it would still hurt me because it's something that you're doing behind my back. And even if I knew, if it was like in front of me, it would still hurt. It would still hurt. If I had expressed to you like, this hurts, it sucks, I don't like feeling this way, please don't do this, and you continue to do it, then I think like that's a really big issue, because I think you should be able to communicate with your partner. Like the first time, like I get it, like everyone's learning, you're trying to learn it where all of your boundaries are, and so if you make a mistake the first time, like we can work past that, we can have a conversation about it, it's forgivable. But I think if it continues to happen and you know that you're hurting me and you're deliberately doing it, that's when I start to take issue. And it's like, are you not understanding what we're saying? Or like, are you just, you don't care?
Yeah, I think the pain with cheating is just like the deceit behind it and like the dishonesty. So for instance, like when you were telling me that it upset you that like if I'm smiling at other people on the street and things like that, but I was very honest with you about what I was doing, and that's like what opened up that conversation for us to have. So when you do express that does upset you, then that's where we have to start like communicating the boundaries and like understanding them so that they're not crossed. But yeah, anytime like there is deceit involved, it is cheating regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
So like if you just have a Tinder account and be like, baby, I swear I don't talk to anybody on it. But it's like if it upsets your partner for them to even have it up, like you should respect that. And
you should also be able to communicate that. I think a lot of times we're fearful of saying what it is that we really need and what we want. But like if you don't, like there's no way that your partner can know, you know? So like if there is something that does bother you, like you should feel safe enough in your relationship to express it and know that your partner isn't going to berate you for it, or like, you know, you might see things differently, but it still doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to express how it is that you feel.
Yeah.
So going back to your experiences cheating on your partner, did you feel guilty or think about them in the moment, or was it kind of out of sight, out of mind?
It was definitely out of sight, out of mind. Was it sometimes the thrill of it? Maybe. Definitely
like the
felt
thrill
that.
of getting caught?
Just the thrill of doing something that I felt like I wasn't supposed to. You know what I mean? A lot of it was, at the end of the day, just like my selfish needs. And like that, I just, being young and like wanting to experience as much as possible. And I think like that curiosity of like, oh my God, like what is this girl like? What is this girl about? And just like acting on those desires without really thinking of the consequences. In my head, I knew like, oh, I wasn't going to get caught. And that's not
Did you ever get caught?
No, there was like some situations where it almost seemed like I might have, but then there was always a way for me to like explain it.
Did you ever feel bad when you were explaining it? You know in your heart that you're lying to them.
Yeah, it felt horrible.
Yeah.
Felt horrible, and then those are things that like I wish I can take back. Like even now, like I wish there's a way for me to like fully apologize. But apologizing now would just bring extra unneeded pain to that person.
So do either of them know that you did cheat on them?
The first person that I cheated on, she did know, because she found on my phone that I was about to go on a date with a girl. Woke me up in the morning really upset, and she's like, "Oh, you have a date today, by the way." And I was like, "Ooh." When she gave me the phone back, that like when I opened my Facebook Messenger, it was like scrolled all the way up. It's like I knew like she read everything. She was like really upset. There was a moment where we did meet back up to like kind of talk about it, and she did forgive me. And we were able to talk about it. She was older than me, so the first sign that kind of allowed me to cheat was because, not going to say that it's her fault, because 100% is my fault and it's my decision, but when I did leave from Miami, when we had like our little long distance thing, she's like, I understand that you're young, and I understand that like you may want more things in your life, and she kind of gave me this, like, to my recollection, I felt like it was kind of like a green light,
yeah.
because the way she also said was, and if you do, like, I'd much rather not find out. Like, she's like, I'd much rather not know, because she's like, it would just hurt me if I knew. So I think
that's
like
so interesting.
Yeah, so I think, well, maybe I might have even read it wrong, but that's kind of like how I took it, was that okay, so like as long as she doesn't find out,
as long as you're like the perfect
was,
boyfriend, and like
yeah, it was kind of like ignorance is bliss, and she kind of expressed that she was happy with what we had, and she just didn't want to find out if I was cheating on her. And obviously getting a text message in the morning when she's awake and I'm not, and she just happens to see it, piqued her curiosity to kind of look into the phone. And when she did find out everything, it definitely hurt her. But I think because of like that prior conversation, she did find a way to like forgive me, and we managed to like be friends and like hook up every now and then. But it definitely did hurt, because like our connection to each other was more like boyfriend and girlfriend type connection. So then I think at that point, her actually knowing it did hurt her way too much to continue like seeing me. So from that situation moving into my next girlfriend, yeah, I was just continuing that same type of mentality.
Was there ever a time where you told yourself like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, and then you just found yourself doing it again? Or
No.
was it you just allowed yourself to?
No, so that's the thing, when I did tell myself that I wasn't going to cheat, I didn't. Like, I'm not going to do that to anyone anymore, because
and
I
what
felt
motivated that? Okay, so
What
the guilt caught up to you.
It was the guilt. So actually the girl that was the one that texted me that I was supposed to go on a date with, that continued to be my next girlfriend. That ended up being my next girlfriend, yeah. So we had times in our relationship where it was also long distance, because she was going to college in another city, so it was long distance as well. But the thing is, I didn't, and I feel so bad, but the thing is, I didn't just cheat on her when we were long distance. It would even be moments where like I'm upset with her, or like we're just upset with each other, and then we would like part ways for like just like a day or whatever, and then I would hit up somebody for the night. And I mean, I was young and I was a dog. I just like...
Was it still at this point emotional and physical cheating as well, or was it more just physical in the second relationship?
It's kind of interesting. So like the emotional cheating is tied in with physical as well. Like they are very aware of my situation, and it's very open. But what I'm saying is like, I guess I can connect it to emotional because conversation was very transparent. And it was like...
So the people that you were cheating on your partner with always knew that you were in a relationship?
Always, yeah.
Interesting.
Always knew.
So then was it the same person? So it wasn't just random people all the time? It was kind of like...
It was
reoccurring characters or something?
Yeah, like a few reoccurring characters, yeah.
Yeah.
Some, every once in a while, like a new person. Yeah, every single time it was like more reoccurring. That's why I feel like there is like a little bit of that emotional connection because it's like that, there's that underlying trust of like, don't tell anybody about this and stuff like that. So
did you ever consider that like you would leave your girlfriend for these people, or was it always just we both know what this is and this is good the way it is and I like my relationship the way that it is?
Yeah, the latter for sure. Yeah, I knew the people that I was hooking up with, I would never leave my current girlfriend for. But like I knew that like the person I was with, that I was dating, like I really cared for and loved so much. But and not to say that like anything was missing with that. It was more about just like myself. It was like more
so
like what I needed
her.
it wasn't about her at all. It was more about what I needed for myself. And like me knowing that it's weird. I guess like a part of me wanted to like feel commitment, but also like not be committed in a very strange way. It's like very selfish too. It's just like something that I needed for myself.
It's your world.
I could have my
have your cake and eat it too.
Have my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Make my bed and lay in it.
No, that's very different.
That's a different saying.
That's a different saying.
Yeah, it was definitely coming from like just selfish needs. I would say for anyone that is being cheated on, it's never about you. Because for like the people that I've cheated on, it was never about them. It wasn't about like, are they good enough or are they like what I'm looking for?
Like what can they do better?
No, it's nothing about that. Like honestly, like
I don't think anybody at that point in your life could have stopped you from cheating.
100%. Yeah, honestly, all of those girls, like amazing people. I love them so much and care for them so much, but it wasn't about like it could be anybody, you know what I mean? But it was just me. It was the position that I was in life and what I needed for myself. It did hurt other people, and the thing is, like in retrospect, I feel so horrible for it, and I wish I can like take it back. And
what made you eventually feel guilty? Like where did that shift happen?
I went to Miami just for like a little vacation, and I was sleeping with other girls while I was there, and the guilt never really hit me. Like I never felt bad about it. But the time that I did was because I was coming home and then I wanted to surprise her. And like I wanted to like bring her flowers and like surprise her because like I was supposed to come home for her birthday. And then I told her like as a little like just to mess with her, I was like, oh, like my flight, like something happened with it. So it's actually delayed. I won't make it to your birthday. And she was like, oh, like that sucks. But I just miss you. I like can't wait for you to come home. And then I was like, I'll come to you as soon as I can. Like I just don't know when the next flight is. And the thing is, like, I'm telling her this knowing damn well that I will make it for her birthday, and I wanted to surprise her. Cute little surprise, yeah. And then there's, like, a lot of little details, too. But the thing is, like, with the home in Miami, I didn't have Wi-Fi. So if she sent me text messages, it, like, wouldn't come through until I would get Wi-Fi. So I told her, like, oh, I'm going to sleep. But realistically, I was on a plane back to Vancouver. And so I got home that night. And I just texted her like I was in Miami, basically saying like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go to sleep. I'll talk to you later. She like sent me messages after, and then she was like, oh, what the hell? All these messages are going through. So she was like really concerned. And then so the next day I met up with her, and then she was like, oh my God, like I can't believe you like surprised me and stuff. She's like, I was so worried. I was like texting my friends. I'm like, is he cheating on me? Because like I was sending him messages and all of them were going through. He told me he was going to sleep, and then all my friends were like, no, like he would never do that to you. And like that just hit me so hard. I was like, damn. That's when like the guilt really came through, because she was like had so much trust. She's like, you would never do that. So I can't believe I thought that you were cheating on me, because like this whole time you were just planning this surprise for me. Like I was like, man, this feels so bad. I'm like, this is so horrible. And like there was no way. Like I was too coward to like tell her that like, yeah, I wasn't. Birthday. Yeah, like I wasn't at that moment, but like I was cheating on you, and I like felt like maybe I should. But at that time, the easiest thing for me to do was just like understand that like we wouldn't work out.
I mean, that's also the first time ever in like how long that you've been cheating on people.
Yeah,
that the guilt finally hit you. Yeah.
And the thing is, like in our relationship, to like not to justify, but in our relationship there was a lot of like arguments, and I think we also knew that like we weren't for each other. So I kind of went off of that route, like the scapegoat, where I was just like, yeah, like we're not really that great for each other, and I think we should just like see other people. And it was really hard for both of us. Like I just knew how much dishonesty was there and how much I felt like I should tell her, but I just like didn't have it in me. And that's why, and I was like, I knew I'd make she need something better for her, because right now, this moment in time is not me, and I like needed a moment for myself to like really like reevaluate who I am and why I've been doing this and things like that. So I stayed single for a good 2 years after that, where I was able to like get all of that out of my system and like not actually have like someone that I'm committed to. So like with each person that I've met after that relationship, I was very honest about what I was doing and that I'm not ready to commit. And I did that for a good 2 years until I met my next girlfriend, and that's when I was faithful and I never cheated again.
Yeah. And then it was me.
And then it was you.
And then it's me.
And then it's you. But that one relationship before you where like I was like 100% unfaithful.
Yeah.
She thought I was cheating all the time.
That is rough,
always go snooping through my phone, and I would let her, but I'm just like, I wouldn't cheat on you. Like,
let's talk about snooping. So like when you found out that first girlfriend that you were cheating on, when she had read your messages, like, were you upset at all, or like did you kind of feel like, well, you know what, I was lying to you, so your snooping is justified?
So sometimes there's snooping with reason, right? And then there's other times where it's like why are you doing that? That's really just like putting a damper on our relationship. Yeah. You know what I mean? But so for the first one, right, like that I cheated on, she never ditched, like she never went through my phone. There was never any of those like kind of trust issues. The only time that she did go through my phone was when on my home screen was a text message.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of the same thing as when I was in high school and my parents read my diary and I was so livid. But in my diary, I had written about all the times that I lied to them and was actually like, I went and did this today, but I wasn't supposed to be doing that. Or like I was drinking and like smoking and like all these things that I would write about, just being a teenager, and I was like writing about it in my diary. So like I was livid that they would go through my diary, and everyone has different reactions to this, because when I tell people, they're like, it's so bad, like I can't believe your parents did that. But at the same time, I'm like, but I did lie to them so many times and they saw that, so it's kind of like I can't really be that upset with them because like the trust isn't there, you know, like. And I think it's kind of telling of a bigger issue. So I feel like with people that like if you are feeling like you need to snoop through your partner's phone, that's already a sign to you that there's no trust.
It also could be a sign like to look within yourself as well. Like, is the trust issues, like, is it with reason? Is it like, you know what I mean? Like,
but I feel like that's really hard to differentiate when you're in that moment.
That's true. But for instance, like with my girlfriend before you, like I think a lot of it was based on her own trauma and not because of anything that I'm personally putting her through.
Yeah.
I would say it's very similar to like how cops get a search warrant. Like if there's reason for you to believe that it helps the case or anything like that, then it would make sense to like go through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then what if your reason to believe is you also just making up in your mind that like this person's definitely cheating on me? What is the justify? I guess because like but in like that situation, yeah, like the text had already shown up on your phone, so it's like, okay, he's definitely up to something. Let me go and read it. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of times I just feel like these conversations should be had with your partner, and like snooping is kind of a sign of like, hey, there isn't a whole lot of trust. I mean, in our relationship, we don't have any like passwords that we don't know. Like, you know the passcode to my phone.
Your
like,
face is on.
Yeah,
on
like our faces are in each other's phones, so there's like literally nothing to hide. And I know that's kind of extreme for some people, but like if they're still really trying to not have you go through their phone, like there's something on there.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
But in the same time too, like even if someone is not hiding anything, like if you're really adamant about finding something that will upset you, you probably will find something.
But also sometimes like that does push people away too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've definitely been in a relationship where he thought that I was cheating on him when I definitely wasn't at all. And if anything, he was doing more sketchy things to like make me think that he was probably going to cheat on me. But the more that he was pushing like, are you cheating on me? Like, are you going to cheat on me? All these things, like the more it drove me away. Not that it drove me to want to cheat on him, but it just drove me away because I was like, you don't trust me, and no matter what I do, like I'm literally doing nothing wrong and you still think that something's wrong. Yeah. So like what can I even do at this point? Like at that point it's somebody else's trust issues that like you can't really deal with, because it's like there's nothing I could have done to make it better.
I went through that as well, like when I wanted to be faithful and just constantly wanted to go through my stuff and like have like, you know, no trust in me. And that at the end of the day that does push you away, because as much as you fight and like try to have this person understand that you are faithful and there's nothing for you to hide, like there's still find something to like be upset about. Or
like even if there's nothing, it's still it is self-sabotage. So. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy where you think that this person's gonna leave you, and And then when they do, because you're being like irrational, then it's like, then they're like, yeah, see, yeah, and it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't have been here if you didn't push me so far away.
Exactly.
But I mean, this is a very specific case scenario, so.
Yeah. Oh, to give you also just like kind of an understanding of like my circle of friends at that time as well. When I did explain to them how like I got caught cheated on because like my text message came up, my friends immediately were like, dude, you're so stupid. That's why you got to change the options in your phone so that it just says text message. And I was like, you know what I mean? That should give you already like a circle of like where my friends weren't like, yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't be cheating on your girl. It was more like,
You're so stupid,
no, dude, you should hide it better. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, that kind of explained like where most of my influences came from as well. It was just like the circle of friends I kept.
I guess now we can kind of move into some questions because it is related to your story, but just a couple of questions that people have asked through Instagram. The first one being, how do you cope with always feeling guilty even though it's been years?
Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, how do you cope with it?
I don't know if you necessarily cope because every single time that you do think about it, it kind of sends you into a spiral.
Sometimes the memories just come back without any control.
I think it's something that you just have to live with. You've taken enough time to reflect on why it happened and like how guilty it did make you feel that you've grown as a person, but I don't think that guilt really has gone away. And
I think the hardest thing is just because like as you're feeling this guilt and this growth as well, like you want to tell that other person, but then like you're not in the position to do that. Yeah, we're not obviously like with all that ending, like we're not on talking terms, so I'm not able to like fully explain myself or say anything, and I don't even know if I would, to be honest, just because like again, like what I said before, it would just cause a lot of unneeded additional pain to her that she maybe just doesn't need to hear at this time in her life.
At this point, it's been so many years that it's like ignorance is bliss. I feel like even more than like, I think if it was in the moment, if it was me, I would want to know because it's so fresh and that's your relationship, obviously, and you know, like whether or not you want to work through it or whatever, like I would want to know all the details. But now that it's been so many years, like I feel like if my ex had come to me and told me like, hey, by the way, like I cheated on you our entire relationship, just so you know, like I feel like that has more to do with you feeling better, but it does nothing to make her feel better.
Yeah, it's more about like relieving my own guilt and actually it would just be putting pain through her again. So it's more of a selfish thing. When I first initially felt like so much of the guilt, what I did do as well was like form a message to her that I never actually sent, because she blocked me on everything. But like, so I was gonna actually write her an email. And, like, I wrote it all out in the email, like, a giant apology. And I was going through so many emotions while writing, and I think it was, like, a good coping mechanism for me to, like, go through all of it and, like, really feel that pain. But rereading the messages, I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't send that to her, so I never did send it. But I think it did help to write it out. The guilt does come back, and it's just something you need to, like, learn from. It's not overwhelming, I feel, anymore. But, like, let's say if it is
easier with time.
Yeah, let's say if it is overwhelming for you, it does get easier in time, but I think it does also get easier when you like write those like fake messages, to just kind of like write out all your emotions and like see it there, maybe reread it one time. That did really help, like especially when I was like really going through the guilt.
Yeah, and I think also like realizing like what I said in the beginning, that your choices and the things that you've done in your past don't equal who you are as a person, and it doesn't have to be who you'll always be, you know? Like, I think that in the moment when you are facing the decisions that you've made, like, it's incredibly painful to face the kind of person that you are, especially if you don't like the person that's looking back at you in the mirror. But, like, you can grow and change from that. And if you put in the work to acknowledge your mistakes and to grow from it, then, like, it does not have to define you. It goes back to that, like, once a cheater, always a cheater. Like, it doesn't have to be who you are. But I think that you do have to acknowledge and put in the work to rectify the things that you've done, however that looks. So whether that is like coming clean about it or just like writing all your emotions out about it, because I feel like in this specific situation, it would only cause her more harm. And yeah, maybe it is selfish to also not tell her. Maybe she does deserve to know everything, but it's a choice that you have to make. And
but yeah, also just like understanding like why you did the things you did, and just understanding like how much you might have changed or how much you want to change as well.
So did you find that when you ended the relationship with a girl that you did cheat on, and then you dated somebody else and you were like, hey, I'm not going to cheat on this girl, like, did you find that there were temptations?
So the thing is, because like I did have that like 2 years of being single and just like going through as many of the experiences that I felt like I could have, there always are like temptations. And I think I just came to more of an understanding that I don't want to feel that guilt again. I don't want to put someone through that pain. I know that like I don't want to lie to somebody. So I just kind of would just stop and think about like, is it worth it? You know what I mean? Like where it's like I would know like if I did this, just understand that like, is it worth the guilt that comes with it? Is it worth the person potentially finding out in this relationship being over? But like at the end of the day, like you have that temptation, and when you go, if you do actually follow through with it, like what does it give you at the end? Like you just slept with somebody. Willpower is about willpower. It came to a point where it was more fulfilling for me to like not give into temptation.
Like you felt like you were a stronger person?
Yeah, I felt a lot stronger, as opposed to like I think when I was younger it was more like, can I sleep with this person? And then like it was more of that curiosity of like, I want to sleep with this other person, equaling out to me actually cheating on another person. At that time for me it was more about just like getting as many girls as I can, really, like as shitty as it sounds. But I think as I grew older and in that relationship where I knew I wasn't going to cheat, it was more fulfilling for me to like have that willpower to like not give in to temptation.
Do you think that cheating is ever justifiable?
I would say no. I feel like you should be honest about what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think that I would say no. You can slide in my DMs with a bunch of situations, I guess.
Yeah, like an example
and, like,
of
yeah,
when
some
you
really,
may think, but...
Yeah, I think as an umbrella, if you are unhappy for whatever reason in your relationship and you feel tempted to cheat or you do cheat, it is a lot easier to have a conversation with your partner and say, like, these are the reasons why I'm unhappy.
If they cheated on you, could you cheat back? Is that justified?
Like a hall pass?
Yeah.
I don't think that I would.
What if you need to cheat back to forgive the other person?
Yeah, so this is another question.
Would be justified.
This is like a lot of people ask, how do you feel about taking back somebody that has cheated on you? I don't know. I think it's so hard. I don't think it makes you a stronger or weaker person. I think every situation is so different, and like every relationship is so different, you know? So like you can never say, oh yeah, if he cheats on you and you can work through it. Like everyone's capability of changing is different.
Yeah, Beyonce forgave Jay-Z.
Like there's a lot of reasons why you would forgive somebody.
Yeah.
And if you put in the work to do it, like I don't see why not, but it's really up to you. It's about what level of trust you're comfortable with, because if you take somebody back, but every single day you still sit there with anxiety and anguish, and you can't trust them when they leave the house, you don't know like who they're messaging all the time, like that is going to drive you insane. I think that also with cheating, you do have to really look at the relationship as a whole, because I'm not ever saying that anybody deserves it or that you're asking for it, but usually cheating is a sign that there's something else wrong in your relationship. That like communication isn't happening, that somebody's needs aren't being fulfilled, and it doesn't mean that that's what you should do, but I think that it usually is a symptom of something else going on in the relationship.
It could just be like I said, for instance, for my situation, it wasn't about like my needs not being fulfilled by the other person. It wasn't something that I think we could have really worked on in the relationship. It was just about the timing in my life.
Yeah. So I guess there are just so many reasons why people do it.
But I mean, who knows? Because like maybe like if all that happened and I did feel that guilt, and let's say I was able to come fully clean and the person was able to be like, I understand what you did and I forgive you for it, and if they wanted a second chance at it, maybe I wouldn't cheat. But we can't really tell because that's the past. But it is possible. It's just like how much is that person who is the cheater is willing to change, because it's not up to like the person being cheated on. It is the person that is cheating. It is their own demons. It is their own like mentality, and that is something either that they're willing to change and fix at that given time or not.
But it's also what you're willing to accept. In the situation in which I was cheated on, I was like, no, fuck this. Like, I deserve way better than this. Like, we'll talk about that more next week.
That's going to be the next podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it affects everyone so differently.
Yeah.
So I think that it's up to you to determine, like, where your boundaries are. And I think what might also help is before that situation happens, have that conversation with yourself and decide, like, am I the type of person that would take somebody back if X, Y, and Z? You know? Like, and so then that way when you're in that situation and like all the emotions are hitting you, that you still at least kind of know where your benchmarks are or like what you're willing to put up with. Because I think when the emotions do hit you and it's a reality, it's hard to think as clearly as possible. So if you know who you are as a person and what you're willing and not willing to compromise on, then that might help when you do find yourself in that situation to know, like, okay, like, this is the standard that I'm holding myself to, whatever that looks like. I don't think there's a right or wrong at all, because people cheat for so many different reasons, whether it's because there's a problem in the relationship or there isn't. Okay, is being attracted to or having feelings for someone else in a relationship cheating? And can you work through it, or does that mean that it's over? This one is specific for you, B.
Ooh, I personally feel not. You can't really help when you're attracted to somebody, and I think, like, that's just something that you need to, like, deal with, because I have an amazing partner here that I love for so many different reasons, and, like, I would never cheat on you. But, like, I can't help but, like, notice those things.
Yeah, I think it also helps when you do admit and acknowledge that in your lifetime, there will never be a shortage of people that you find attractive and that you think are, like, beautiful minds and souls. And you will always meet really crazy, cool, incredible people. But does that mean that you need to have sex with all of them? No. Does that mean that you need to be in a relationship with all of them? No. But I think just acknowledging somebody's beauty.
Appreciate from a distance.
But also I think when you realize that you don't need to have a relationship or to have sex with every person that you find attractive. And I think when I was younger, like, I definitely felt that way. Like, I would be attracted to somebody and I'm like, this is so rare that it happens, so it must mean something. But, like, no, it doesn't. And, like, you don't need to force that situation. You don't need to jump into a situation just because you're attracted to somebody.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think, like, before when I was cheating, like, it was that, like, oh, if I'm attracted to somebody and they're attracted to me, like, we should be able to sleep with each other. But then I realized, like, that's hurting the person I'm currently with.
I think with attraction, unless you're acting on it, like, that's a whole different thing. But just somebody being attracted to somebody else, like, that shouldn't cause you pain, because that's inevitable, you know? And, like, you can sit here and act like you don't get attracted to other people once you're in a relationship, but, like, that's not true. Like, I can find people attractive. Like, it doesn't do anything in me. Like, I personally never feel like, oh, like, I want to go have sex with these people that I find attractive. I'm just like, yo, you are a good looking man. And, like, I'll usually tell Dayon, and we'll just sit there and acknowledge this really attractive man. But, like...
And I'm not too proud to say that the man's attractive, too.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I mean, but don't get me wrong. We did have some situations where I didn't fully know how to act, or I didn't realize that some of my remarks were getting out of hand, or some of the things I was doing.
This was, like, earlier in our relationship, too.
This is when we had our little...
This is our tiff.
Kerfuffle.
Yeah. Dayon just took it to a different level that I wasn't expecting, and he doesn't realize that he gets enamored with people, and we can talk about all this next week, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Oops.
And it ties into kind of how we met, too, and I think that's why, like, that's where some of my triggers come from. Next question. If you're a flirtatious person and you tell your partner that, everyone's fully aware, then does it make it more excusable?
I personally am a flirtatious person, but, like,
you know that. Like, you know that, and I know that.
But like you pointed out before, like, I do have control over my own actions. Like, it's not like something that is like, it's just a habit at the end of the day, and it's something that you can break. I don't know. I have a different outlook on it sometimes, but I feel like there's no harm in it sometimes.
I mean, I used to be a very flirtatious person, but like, I know when to turn it on and I know when to turn it off. And I think for me, I'm very strongly of the belief that you have autonomy over your actions. I don't really think that it's ever excusable to use something like being flirtatious, which is a characteristic or also sometimes a choice, to explain away or to justify you hurting somebody else. Like, I don't think that it's fair to say that you don't have autonomy over your actions, because everybody does, and it's a choice. I think that at the end of the day, like, if you know that about yourself, then you should be even more aware of the kind of impact that you have on people. And, like, I don't fuck with that mindset at all. Like, I think that you need to be able to own up to your actions and realize that you have autonomy over your life, like, good and bad. You can make the choices to, like, control your flirtiness. But, like, how sad is that if you, like, can't control your actions and your words? Like, that's you can.
It's an excuse.
It's an excuse. It's 100% an excuse.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, I probably don't tolerate it just because my ex was like that. And I was just like, yeah, no. No, you can shut that shit down.
And that's what I'm going to say. Like, another thing about, like, motivations for cheating as well, which I think I forgot to mention, was ego. So, like, a lot of it is just, like, building your own ego. And I think, like, every time you, like, sleep with somebody new, you get, like, that new confidence and, like, that ego boost.
So this is the last question, but when and do you at all think that you should tell your next partners that you've cheated in the past?
I think you should tell them like immediately.
Like right out the gate, like
Yeah,
first date?
be like either run or stay.
Yeah. I mean, when you told me, it was really early on in our relationship, and I think if anything for me, him being able to admit that and me having been in a relationship where I was cheated on, I was just so happy to have honesty like in our relationship, and I could tell by us talk like it wasn't just, oh, by the way, like I've cheated in the past. Like it was very extensive, and we did talk about your guilt, and we talked about how you felt like you never wanted to do it again. And like, to be fair, those are just words, you know, like especially at the beginning of a relationship. But I felt like for me, because you were able to own up to it, I didn't ask it of you. Like I didn't drag it out of you either. It was information that you were willing to give to me. I was like, okay, it seems like I can trust you more. I think it's scary for somebody that has been cheated on to get into a relationship with somebody that admits that they've cheated in the past, and not just once, but like multiple times. But I really took it as this person is grown enough to learn from their mistakes and tell me because they want to do better and like they want to be held accountable. So that's kind of how I took it. Well, that was our last question. And next week we'll be talking, I know we hinted about it a lot, but we'll be talking all about what happens when you are the one that gets cheated on. How do you deal with fear of being cheated on moving into future relationships, and how do you heal from all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Because we both been cheated on.
And we all handle it differently, but we'll kind of explain to you how we handled our situations.
Yeah. Because we handled it quite differently, too.
100%.
Yeah, very, very differently.
Very differently, yeah.
You went on, like,
I went
cheating
on a rampage,
yeah. And I was like, yeah, nope, fuck you, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
You went on a YouTube rampage.
Yeah, I went on a fucking build my career rampage.
I went on a how many other lives can I fuck up rampage.
Oh, it's so bad. We laugh about it, but, I mean... You guys should really know, like, I mean, there's so much that I've dealt with even just since we've been together and, like, working through your guilt with you. And I know that it's not my burden to bear, but I love and I care about you. And I know how much it hurts. And,
Thanks,
like,
baby.
You're welcome. And if you are the type of person that feels like cheating is something that you might want to do, like, I would just reconsider, because the amount of guilt that you do feel when it does catch up to you, and I'm sure it will at some point because you can only bear you for so long, it's hard. And it's something that you have to live with forever, because when it hits, it really, really hits.
Mm-hmm. It does. Hard. Hits hard. I don't recommend cheating at all, because the guilt that I have to live with is sometimes very overwhelming, and it sucks. A lot of times it sucks when you have to like relive those memories, and you wish that you can see it in a better light sometimes, but it does kind of ruin everything. So I would say like I learned a lot from the situations, and it made me who I am today. So I am grateful for like going through the certain things that I had to, but I would say like cheating and hurting someone is not worth it. Especially if like you're aware of like what you're doing, and if there's a way for you to change that.
People that you really loved.
Yeah, it was people I really cared for, and I wish I wasn't like selfish. To some extent, I felt like I was living two different lives in the same time. So I felt like I was living two different experiences, but I should have not like done that. You know what I mean? Like I was able to like experience this side of me that was single, but then also experience the side of me that was in a relationship, and almost felt like I was living those two separate lives in the exact same time. Looking back at the whole situation, like it just wasn't worth it. Like definitely should have spaced those out, and definitely should have like fully committed if that was what I wanted to do. I also felt like before I got into relationships, I always felt like I'm this dude that's known as like, oh, you can get any girl, or you can get like all these girls. So like you feel like you have this certain reputation of like, I get all these girls and I should like continue doing that. But then a part of you really wants love and like a relationship. So you do that, but then you end up hurting that person you love because of like your own ego. You just end up living with all that like regret and all that guilt that you hurt someone that you really cared for. It's better to do right to people and like not hurt them, because you grow up and you're more proud of like the decisions you made, as opposed to feeling like remorse for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that a part of it was because you wanted as much love as possible from as many people as possible?
Could be.
You were just trying to hoard love and admiration?
It could be just like, yeah, like I needed that boost in my own confidence. Like whereas like I can have a really pretty girlfriend whom I love and care for, but then also like be able to bag any chick that I want, you know? Be able to sleep with any other girl that I find attractive. Yeah, maybe it was just like fulfilling my own ego and also just feeling love. As much love as possible. Once a cheater, always a cheater?
No. Definitely not. People can change. You just gotta put in the work.
Hallelujah. You tell them.
Like, that's the thing. You just have to be really good at reading people.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if they have cheated and they're still showing you behaviors in which they're probably gonna do it again, you should be able to see them. You know, like, don't just blindly believe that people can change. Like, you have to observe the circumstances. If you get deceived, it's not your fault. If you get 100%. Cheated on, it's not your fault. So just remember that.
It honestly breaks my heart so much when I hear like a girl crying over a guy that cheated on her and says like, what did I do wrong? Like, am I not pretty enough? Am I not this enough? All I can really say to all of you girls that, or even guys that have been cheated on, or
because there are definitely girls that cheat on guys.
Yeah, 100%. For anyone that's being cheated on, like, all I want to tell you, or like all I can really say is it is not you. Like, it is 100% not about you. Like, it is about that person. Like, they're projecting other traumas that they may have, or it's just really about like their own selfish needs at that time, but it is never about you. Big or it's ego. Like, someone needs their ego fed, right? Like, there's things like that, but like, all I can really say is it's not about you. 100%. It's not because you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not sexy enough.
I don't think that you should have, like, this person is already causing you pain. And, like, I don't think that you need to inflict more pain on yourself by blaming yourself for somebody's actions.
So, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you stay tuned for the next episode. We're dropping every Tuesday in the morning.
5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
That's the one.
So, you can follow us on Instagram at Your Girl Neens.
Day on, day off.
And at Neens Deens. And we will be polling for questions for all of our episodes. But next week, we already have them because you guys asked us a bunch of questions about cheating. So we're going to talk in depth more about how we dealt with being cheated on.
Mm-hmm.
The tables have turned.
The tables have turned.
Okay, bye.
Bye.